Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters to the Silver and the Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. I'm delighted this week we're getting back to the point.
Woohoo!
Following last week's Road to First Issue Special Episode 2, which we hope you enjoyed. We certainly enjoyed recording it.
Mm-hmm.
Today we are doing the story from Issue 9 of First Issue Special, which was published on the 18th of September 1975, a mere 5 days after the third birthday of Matthew Everett, the drummer with Menswear and the Montrose Avenue. It's my hope that I'll bump into him at a job one of these days and I can get him to record an intro for the show. Wouldn't that be lovely?
You never know.
It's quite an interesting one, this. Issue 9, it features Dr. Fate, quite significant, for a couple of reasons, which we'll discuss. Peter will now, though, tell us about the cover.
At the top we have the banner, DC, the Line of Superstars, First Issue Special, 25 cents, number 9, December. 32413 is the serial number. Approved by the Comics Code Authority. There's a big Dr. Fate logo. But the image on the cover, this is a Joe Kubert cover, which is interesting.
It is interesting.
There is a sphinx flying down from the sky. We're in a town, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks vaguely European, doesn't it?
Yeah, And this sphinx is coming down, smashing through one of the buildings. Oh no, there's a crowd of panicked people there. Gasp. But fortunately, Dr. Fate is on hand, and he's blasting this sphinx with a bolt of lightning, it looks like. Bolt of lightning type energy from his left hand. Ooh. And there's a caption that says, "The Master of Magic battles the mummy that time forgot."
Yes, one of the lesser-known Edgar Rice Burroughs novels. Jokes. Yeah, it feels like ages since we've seen Dr. Fate. I know he wasn't in the last couple of JLA, JSA team-ups. I know he was in the Freedom Fighters one, so... Have we seen him since? I can't remember.
He was recently in that Flash, multi-part epic.
Of course.
With Iris being decanted to Earth 2 and then shoved 1,000 years into the future.
Of course he was.
He didn't have a huge amount to do there, but yeah, he was there.
That was tail end of last year, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, around about then,
I remember taking the issues with me when I was babysitting Harry and failing to write all the notes that I had to do whilst I was doing that. So basically, we haven't seen him very much recently, I suppose is a reasonable way of saying it.
Yes. This is the start of a resurgence, hopefully.
Yes.
For the Master of Magic, as it says in the cover.
The Wonder Wizard himself. So, without any further ado, we'll jump in. The listeners, if you haven't got a copy already, we'd encourage you to track one down or to maybe get hold of the hardcover collection that reprints all of First Issue Special. This is a very, very interesting story. Should we have the credits first for this one, Pete? Do you want to give us the credits at the bottom of the splash page?
Yes, it's presented by Martin Pascoe, writer, Walt Simonson, artist, and Jenny Conway, editor.
Yes, art from Walt Simonson. It's not the first time he's appeared on the show, obviously, because last year we did the Manhunter epic that he did with Archie Goodwin. But it's nice to see him back, and frankly, I can't think of another artist who would have done this story as much justice.
Yep, not at the time, nope. I'm entirely with you.
We shall leap in. So very dynamic opening splash image. There is some captioning at the top, as you might expect.
"When evil strikes, when chaos is unleashed upon the universe, and those who live by order scream in anguish, one man alone is equal to the challenge. He alone wields power to match the dark forces, for he is more than a man. He is... Dr. Fate."
And we see Dr. Fate. Blessedly, it's the real Dr. Fate, not the MF Enterprises Dr. Fate, although it's quite fun to imagine this story is featuring the MF Enterprises Dr. Fate.
Or the Earth S Dr. Fates that we met last week.
This is true. Imagine this trio of Dr. Fates all teamed up. They could call it the Three Doctors.
Yes.
Awful. Yes, we see Dr. Fate, and it kind of looks like he's surfing in mid-air. He's obviously emerged from his tower in Massachusetts and has started to soar up and away from it, and he's zooming out of the frame. That's how dynamic it is, and he's saying as he goes,
"Often has the crystal orb of Naboo cast its awesome radiance over this land, but never before this night has it shone with such urgency, such foreboding. It portends a struggle I have dreaded all my life."
Caption continues at the top of page 2.
"From a cold and lonely tower without windows or doors streaks a figure cloaked in sparkling darkness, gliding high above witch-haunted Salem."
And Dr. Fate monologues to himself here.
"I draw nearer to the place the crystal showed. nearer to the battle yet to come. It has been destined since time beyond time, and still the mortal man within me shudders.
Gasp! Guess what, listeners? There's some more captioning.
Midnight, and the Boston Museum of Egyptology seems unduly tranquil for the scene of an impending cataclysm, a struggle of which its visitors cannot be forewarned.
We see two gentlemen standing outside the aforementioned Boston Museum of Egyptology. Listeners, our American listeners, is there a Museum of Egyptology in Boston? Have you been there? If there is, please let us know. We'll share your photos on the socials. A couple of gentlemen standing outside. A shorter, thick-set man wearing a green overcoat, receding swept-back, dark grey hair and a thick moustache. Another taller man, swept-back, white hair, hawkish features, a very sharp nose, very fierce eyebrows. And the shorter man is saying, "The trustees wouldn't dare object to a tour at this hour, not for so distinguished a guest as yourself, Dr. McGill." And then the taller man with white hair says, "Thank you, Anderson. Awfully good of you." "Nonsense, Doctor. I couldn't let you leave Boston without seeing our latest acquisitions. Our latest Egyptian dig uncovered several relics from a religious cult of the Middle Kingdom, dating from around 2025 BC. And as the two men talk, we see in the background an Egyptian-style sarcophagus. In the next panel, the sarcophagus seems to open with a very satisfying sound effect, prompting Dr. McGill, the taller man with the white hair, to exclaim, "Of all the childish games! Professor Anderson, I have no time for practical jokes. I insist you explain this at once." And we see there is a hand holding the lid of the sarcophagus. Professor Anderson exclaims when he sees this, "Good Lord in heaven!" And all of a sudden after that there is a very large "Ah!"
The curator's hysterical scream hasn't yet died as the Mage of Mystery shimmers through the museum's stone walls to confront a pair of broken bodies, stark terror etched on their white faces.
Yes, there's a nice ripple of golden energy as Dr. Fate appears through the wall. We see Dr. McGill, Professor Anderson down on the ground. We get a nice close-up of Professor Anderson's terrified face as the Wonder Wizard thinks to himself,
"By Ishtar, it's already begun, but what shape has the evil taken?"
He gets a dynamic close-up as he thinks,
"Wait, now I sense it. Great evil. The lingering essence of a servant of Anubis."
And in the next panel we see a bandage-wrapped, mummified hand reaching into the frame as Dr. Fate whirls and exclaims,
"You!"
There is a massive "wow" sound effect. In the next panel we see Dr. Fate down on the ground and a large, mummified figure with a wide, burning red mouth standing over him saying, "At last we meet, student of Naboo. And since that wise one's mind is linked with yours, so do you recognize me. Gaze on me and know the fearsome power you have unleashed." Dr. Fate exclaims,
"Blessed Ormazd, the age-old prophecy comes true. Callus lives."
The first panel of page 4 is a very dynamic shot of Dr. Fate here, and here's a big, massive change. He gestures, saying,
"But you flatter yourself, evil one, if you think Dr. Fate might fear one such as you. Spawn of chaos, evil incarnate, by the power of life and order, I cast you out."
And as he casts this spell, Dr. Fate's magic manifests itself as a giant ankh in the air above him, circled, and then circled again with a sort of rippling circular effect. There's no way I can put it, listeners. And then the next panel, the mummified figure of Callus stands, arms stretched, legs outstretched, seems to be hovering in a bubble, or unless he's created a force field of his own, because all of the ankhs, it seems, that Dr. Fate has generated are all falling to the ground. This Callus exclaims, "Ha ha ha! Look at me, Fate! Witness how easily I withstand your petty spell. You are a wizard without wisdom, Fate, to know me and yet not recognise that as my strength increases, you grow ever weaker." Callus reaches to the side of him, picks up what looks like just the lid of a packing case or something. It's not very clear, even from Walt Simonson's beautiful artwork, and he strikes at Dr. Fate viciously, sending the Wonder Wizard flying.
Nightmare! Dr. Fate staggers, overwhelmed by his own magic, as a backlash of eldritch energy sends him reeling, until finally he falls.
Dr. Fate flat on his back. Callus looms over him, saying, "Are you so blind you have not yet guessed? My power comes from what you possess, your amulet. The amulet which is now mine." And indeed, we see the bandaged figure removing the amulet from around Dr. Fate's neck. In the next panel, he's moved to open a large window in the museum. Taking his leave, he says, "Fool, to have had such power and not realised it. No matter, it is mine now, and neither he nor all the lords of life may steal it from me and you. From this night forward, I control man's destiny, for I control the power.
Hours pass as the mystic lies motionless, locked in a death-like sleep, until at last a finger of sunlight slowly prods him back to consciousness, and he discovers his amulet gone.
Yes, we see the light shining through the window, Fate sitting up, rubbing the back of his neck, obviously, because that's what you do when you've been knocked unconscious, and he looks down at his chest, no sign of the amulet. Beams of light fire from the eyes of his helmet in the next panel, and he again gestures, creating another ankh in the space of his hand, as he declares,
Hear me, O great Ka, lord of the ethereal plane. Grant me communion with Callus, so that my mind may be merged with his. It's futile. Armed with the amulet of Naboo, Callus now has the power to blot out my psychic probe, to resist any astral interference.
Next panel, we see Dr. Fate again flying through the air back towards his tower in Salem as he thinks,
Even the effort itself weakens me. I must rest, must return to my mortal self. Perhaps I may then be able to divine Callus's plan. Born by mystic winds, he returns to Salem to take refuge among mortals, in a mortal identity, and a very mortal, perhaps tenuous relationship, with the woman we know as Inza Nelson. He knows her as wife, and sometimes nurse.
Inza Nelson, who we've not seen, I don't think, in the show since Showcase 56, which we did blooming back in 2020.
The Psycho-Pirate, my goodness.
Gosh, yeah, wow, that's a thought. I thought she might have popped up, but no, right enough. And Pete said when he prepped that Mike's doesn't list this as one of her appearances, so...
No.
If anyone's in a position to change that, please feel free to do so. So, as he phases through the wall, Dr. Fate says,
Hail, Inza.
Kent, she exclaims, and then Dr. Fate says,
I have returned your husband to you.
He crashes to the ground. Inza exclaims, Kent! She helps him to his feet, starts walking him over to a chair. She says, Oh Lord, not again. The next panel, first panel of page 6, she removes Dr. Fate's helmet. We see Kent Nelson. He looks like a blonde Gareth Hunt in this panel, actually.
He does, yeah.
As Inza says, I won't ask you what it was this time, Kent. I know better than to think you can tell me. But I'll tell you something, Ken Nelson. I've had it to hear with. And she realises that he's not very responsive. Hey, you're hurt.
What time is it? I mean, how long was I...
Gone? You're asking me? I'm just Mrs. Nelson, and Dr. Fate doesn't tell me anything. I bandage your wounds, wake you up from your nightmares. I stay up all night wondering if you'll ever come home. But will he tell me what he does to you? No.
Do we have to go through this now, Inza? He, you mean me. I'm Dr. Fate.
No, Kent, you're not. You're Kent Nelson, my husband, the archaeologist. Kent Nelson doesn't fly. He doesn't cast spells. He doesn't summon demons. He's my husband. And my husband is a face, not a mask. My husband is a kind and loving but ordinary man. And we see Inza binding him round the chest with bandages here, still wearing the full uniform, obviously, though he's taken his helmet off. And as she speaks, his eyes are hooded, obviously, as he listens to what she's saying. Inza continues, And that kind of man doesn't run after ridiculous menaces which don't concern him, and then come home half dead. He doesn't dump himself in the lap of the woman who loves him. She's made him a cup of coffee, which she offers to him, saying, Here, drink your coffee, and then ask her to just put him back together again. And Kent? Kent! She's very angry at this point because she notices in the first panel of page 7, asleep. He's asleep. Blast you, Kent Nelson! And with a crack sound effect, she hurls the cup of coffee against the wall. Inza gets very impassioned close up as she continues. I can't handle it anymore. I just can't. It's so many things. Not just what happens to you. It's this place. It's living like a prisoner. Having no friends. It's knowing that I can't share what you feel when you're Fate. It's having half a husband. It's, what's the use? He's zonked out anyway. Out of it. And when he comes around, I won't be here. And Inza picks up a jacket and she seems to gesture herself with her right hand and a rippling hole appears in the wall of the tower. There's a very nice graphic shot of Dr. Fate's helmet in the next inset panel as captioning resumes.
Perhaps Kent Nelson is out of it, but half of him has heard his wife's tearful words, and half of him cries too, while the other half hears but one word. Callus.
Amongst this captioning is a little inset panel of Kent Nelson sat with his head in his hands. We next see him walking up a flight of stairs, past a few panels inscribed with hieroglyphics. He passes through a door which has an Egyptian eye motif on it, as the captioning again resumes.
Callous. The word gnaws at him and conjures horrible visions. But what does it mean? He goes to the one place where he may find out. A study. A chamber alive with the wisdom of the ages, culled by archaeologist Nelson from countless digs. There he studies, he broods, and studies more.
Yes, and we see Kent, still wearing the Dr. Fate uniform, flicking through the pages of a large book, the pages covered in hieroglyphs.
He spans the millennia in search of secrets, for somehow he knows that the wisdom of the ancients is all that can save his world now. And he prays to 1,000 gods at once that this wisdom is still within his grasp, especially now. Hours pass before the doubts begin to fade. Then finally, it happens. Callous. The word leaps at him from a withering yellow page, and an ancient story unfolds.
This is all very ornately rendered, listeners, because there's a shot of a brooding Kent looking at this large book, and then we see Callous letter in very ornate type, and then a little scroll is rolling out underneath all this with lots of hieroglyphs on it, so it's very graphic is the best way of putting it, a very graphic way of storytelling that we're not really used to. And we flash back, get a nice shot of ancient Egypt and some captioning again.
It began in 2030 BC at a temple on the Nile River. Here, in the city of Bubastis, the worshippers of Bast met in secret rites. Into their midst came a priest named Callous, a mad priest.
Yes, we see a crowd of people looking up at Callous, who's wearing a sort of bluey-green robe with purple edging, and his headdress, he gets a close-up in a moment, we can see that he's very stark black eye makeup.
Bubastis had seen many of these preaching a glorious afterlife among the lords of life, Osiris and Amon-Ra. But this Callous served a different god. Very different.
We get a shot of Callous here as he is saying to the crowd below him, "Hear me, worshippers of false gods. I bring you death, the terrible punishment of Anubis. Feel his sting, and know your true master's wrath."
The retribution was indeed terrible, for in the time it takes to tell it, a mountain crumbled, and a temple to Bast was no more.
Yes, that's basically what we see. It looks like there's an eclipse happening in the sky, actually, and lots of dust and collapsing statues and stuff. We also, in the next panel, see Callous kneeling down in supplication as the jackal-headed form of Anubis seems to be looming out of all the cloud of dust and smoke after the collapse of the mountain. Anubis can be heard saying,
"My son, I am pleased. Here is your reward, the amulet of Anubis."
He gestures, and we see a very familiar-looking disc floating through the air as Anubis continues,
"Use it wisely to serve me, and you will dwell with me for all eternity."
And in the following months,
we see Callous standing. He's holding what looks like a sickle in his right hand as he stands above a crowd. We see people below. It's men with shaved heads wearing purple robes. They're obviously his acolytes or something. And Callous is stating, "I control you now, slaves. You will build the mightiest of pyramids in homage to Anubis."
a legion of Nubian slaves labored years to build that temple, driven by a power which gripped them like the fist of angry Anubis himself, until one day there came a stranger who would not be broken by the talisman's power.
And we see a powerfully built man wearing green and yellow sort of shorts or dressing, a green headband, holding in position a sort of black and yellow striped shawl. He has very defined features and he has a thick white beard. And we see him saying,
"Only the defined pharaoh may be honoured by such a temple. No longer will you defy the lords of life, Callous. Such is the will of Nabu."
It's Nabu, listeners. Fantastic. Nabu gestures. A circle forms around his right hand, which radiates out, forms another circle, which inside that has another circle, which is full of a little row of ankhs, and this all sort of ripples, and rips the amulet of Anubis away from Callus's chest. We see Callus's headdress falling off, his robes tearing as he falls down. The captioning resumes.
Freed from the priest's spell, thirsting for revenge, the slaves meted out to Callus the punishment for sacrilege. Mummification. Alive.
Yes, and oh my goodness, we see Callus being stretched out on a surface as Nabu stands over. We can see Nabu is wearing the medallion around his neck, and poor Callus has been wrapped in the bandages. You can see his mouth wide open as, well, if you know anything about mummification, it's not very pleasant. The captioning continues.
But as Callus shrieked in agony...
Yes, we see Anubis hovering in his cloud again, looking down, and he says,
Fear not, Callus. You will know life and death until you have recovered the stolen talisman, if need be, for all time.
And then we see another little roll of the scroll with the hieroglyphic marks on it as we return to the present day and see Kent Nelson, still in the Dr. Fate uniform, closing the large book he was looking at, surrounded by more books and globes and a very conspicuous ankh painted on the wall behind him as he looks gloomily down at the book and thinks,
Naboo, he never told me the amulet's secret, only that one day someone named Callus would try and take it from me. Now I understand why.
That brings us to the top of page 10, and the next few panels are all sort of rounded off because we're in flashback territory. We're in the desert, see a beautiful golden sky and pink rocks and yellow rocks, and it's all very, very, very well rendered and coloured. And the captioning, which is our friend, picks up again.
To share that understanding, we must turn time back 15 years to the Valley of Ur, where archaeologist Sven Nelson and his 12-year-old son Kent explored the ruins of the Sumerian civilization and found more than they ever dreamed.
Yes, we see Sven Nelson and his son, and I have to say, this is a very John Byrne-style rendered child where he looks much, much smaller than I think a 12-year-old would actually look.
Yeah.
And Sven Nelson isn't too clear here. We just see, well, let's say a pith helmet and maybe some jodhpur-style trousers. The next panel is helpfully captioned.
The boy found a turning point in his young life when he stumbled upon an ancient tomb and accidentally released the wizard named Naboo from centuries of suspended animation.
Yes, we see Kent, young Kent, wearing a white t-shirt and blue jeans. Looks like he's lifting something up in the first panel here, but then we see him standing in front of Naboo, smoke and gas coiling around, and Naboo standing tall and strong above the little boy.
And with Naboo, the gas that had sustained him in his sleep. For some reason, that gas proved lethal to the boy's father, and Sven Nelson died.
Yes, we see poor Sven lying at the bottom of a small flight of stairs, the little boy stepping down, and the young Kent shouting up at Naboo yells,
He's dead! You killed him! You killed my father! Without warning, the ancient's hands shot forward to envelop the boy in a shimmering force field, immobilizing him. Instantly, all grief and pain was erased from young Kent's mind, to be supplanted by awesome secrets.
And we see the young Kent sort of sat in the loop of another ankh. The bottom half of the ankh, standing in front of that, stretched out, is a very familiar figure, but before we get to him, we need some more captioning.
That day, half of Kent Nelson died too, but not as his father had died. For the dead half was reborn as a being whom Naboo taught the magic secrets of the universe, as a being dedicated to preserving the natural order, a being called Dr. Fate.
And we see the full costumed figure of Dr. Fate, as we've all known him for so many years, standing in front of the bottom of the ankh, almost as Naboo looks on. But the first panel of page 11 is Dr. Fate, with his helmet back on, flying away from the tower, thinking,
When Naboo gave me the amulet, he dared not reveal its power, lest he rend the fabric of destiny. Now the ultimate test of my eldritch power awaits me. It is ordained by Fate.
This is cracking, isn't it, listeners? This is great. I hope you're reading along, it's brilliant.
Miles away, the cold hotel room in which a lonely woman broods grows colder still, as...
It's a very dramatic shot of this building at night. Again, to my eyes, a very European, that could be London, the way that fence is sort of signposted, or maybe Paris, and very ornate, fancy old buildings, and we hear the thoughts from inside the hotel of Inza Nelson. Face facts, Inza, you blew it. We cut inside. She's slumped on the floor in her hotel room, thinking, You're just what every slightly schizoid hero needs. A loving wife who cuts out when he needs her the most. Terrific. She stands up, crosses to the window. Okay, so I can't hack the Florence Nightingale bit. That's cool. But maybe if I tried to help him somehow instead of splitting, he'd stand a better chance of coming out of this mess in one piece. And speaking of helping, I've got a hunch that museum was a place to start. Slamming the door of her room, she takes her leave. Good shot of her shoes as she walks down the stairs as we hear her thoughts. I'll drive out there and poke around, see what I can dig up. I don't know what I'm looking for, but it beats feeling sorry for myself.
Meanwhile, the hills surrounding Boston echo with a shrill, unholy chant, unheard for 3,000 years.
Yes, it's a great shot of the horrific-looking Callus, the mummy, as he stands with his arms wide, head thrown back as he yells, Hear me, O great Anubis. Hear thy humble servant. He who... But he's interrupted by another massive...
Wham!
And that's definitely going on the socials. Tagging Andrew Ridgely in that one, as the mummified form of Callus is hurled backwards. There's a massive big circular concussive force there. Very, very effective. This is gorgeous. Callus recovers enough to say, Who? Ah, so it is you, Fate. And we see Dr. Fate again sort of surfing in on the air as Callus continues. Your persistence will avail you nothing. It would seem Nabu failed to instruct you in the humble acceptance of defeat. No matter. What my ancient enemy did not teach you, I will. And he swings for Dr. Fate, but then he's foiled as he says, as Dr. Fate thinks.
I must conserve my mystic energies until just the right moment, and in the meantime, strike in a mortal fashion, physically.
Dr. Fate punches at Callus, thinking,
Tezcatlipoca, god of trickery, grant me agility to disorient my foe, until the moment I can unleash my magic. Now!
Exclaims Dr. Fate as he gestures wildly, and again we see a little succession of red Egyptian ants circling Callus. And the first thing we see at the top of page 13 is a beautifully rendered wide cityscape. However,
instantly, all the lights in the Boston skyline wink out, plunging the great metropolis into a darkness deeper than sleep, while the only light for hundreds of miles appears at the fingertips of the Golden Gladiator.
Listeners, this is amazing. We see Callus being held in a bubble of energy as Dr. Fate blasts at him. And the focus of Dr. Fate's energy is again a circle, a rotating circle of Egyptian ants. As he is battered by all this cosmic force, Callus yells, No! No! And Dr. Fate thinks,
Callus serves a god of darkness, so light must be deadly to him. And even if it takes the light of an entire city to destroy him, then by Ishtar, so be it.
And we get a very dynamic close-up of the eyes in Dr. Fate's helmet here. And again, that looks like the tops of a couple of ants.
Yep.
Fate suddenly thinks to himself,
Wait, he's stronger than I guessed. He is not destroyed, merely driven off.
In the next panel, we see Dr. Fate kneeling on the ground, investigating, and there's no sign of Callus at all. But we can see in the distance the approaching headlights of a car. Dr. Fate thinks to himself,
Every minute Callus possesses the amulet, he grows more powerful, closer to domination of Earth. Must stop him, but how? How?
The car draws level. From inside, we hear the voice of Inza Nelson as she yells, Kent! I've something you may need. I found it in the museum. A fragment of the mummy's sarcophagus. She steps out of the car bearing the fragment. Stepping towards the doctor, she says, Here, look at these hieroglyphics meaning the mummy's magical name. Apparently the Egyptians couldn't seal his coffin unless they invoked it. Dr. Fate looks at the fragment and thinks,
That fragment, it bears Nabu's seal.
Inza continues, Honey, listen. What I said earlier, Kent, Dr. Fate, oh, never mind. I keep forgetting there are two of you, my husband and Dr. Fate.
You've been a great help, Mrs. Nelson. Thank you,
says the doctor, and Inza, with her hands folded across her chest, says very quietly, Swell.
Now excuse me, I must return the city's light,
says Dr. Fate as he soars up into the air. Inza cries after him, Hey, wait! Kent! Kent!
But when the lights go on again, Bostonians discover their city transformed.
Yes, we're with a few NPCs, some random members of the public standing around with energy rippling in the air above them. One man in a green suit points and says,
Good Lord, look!
A woman standing nearby says,
The skyline, it's been changed. These things, they look like a sphinx and a pyramid.
And indeed, the camera pulls back and we see an airplane coming into land as instead of the familiar Boston skyline of skyscrapers and tall buildings, there is indeed a pyramid and a sphinx. An Anubis-headed sphinx, that is, has appeared and seems to be knocking over buildings as it does so.
And in his sanctuary, Callus rejoices.
We then see Callus in the first panel of page 15 standing seemingly outside with a large number of general members of the public standing watching as he holds up the amulet of Anubis that he stole back from Dr. Fate and he declares, Are you pleased, O Lord? I have used the power of your blessed amulet to smite the false idols and in their stead erect temples to you, Anubis, Lord of Darkness.
And suddenly there is a sound like the heavens themselves being torn asunder as...
Emerging from massive clouds which dominate the skyline, we see the creepy, spectral, jackal-headed form of Anubis who says,
Who disturbs Anubis? Show yourself if you dare.
We see Callus lifting the amulet above his head as he says, "It is I, your faithful servant Callus. See how I have honoured you, O Lord. See!"
Callus, the name means nothing to me, but henceforth I shall mark it well as a fool's name. But what else can he be who risks the wrath of Anubis but a zealous fool?
Callus does not take this well. We see him pulling at the bandages around his head as he exclaims, "Can you be so cruel to pretend not to know me, who served you for 3,000 years? Look at me, Anubis." There's a massive rip sound effect. "See your servant. Look at me." And he gets a very dynamic close-up as we see the aged, battered, bloodied face underneath the bandages. In the final panel of page 15, Dr. Fate swoops in, thinking,
The artifact Inza discovered may prove helpful. I fear the mummy's strength increases greatly, and this time it will take more than fists to distract him.
First panel of page 16, Anubis is not impressed by Callus at all, as he continues,
Ha! Look at you, who are naught but rotting flesh and crumbling bone. I could sooner see a maggot's soul than recognize you. However, I may consider your cause if you destroy that annoying Dr. Fate.
Callus, surprised I think at this, says, "Destroy? Do you think I have not tried?" Then he's distracted here, where he twists and says, "Behind me, you!" And obviously he's realised that Dr. Fate's flying down because he holds forth the amulet and says, "You are well named, Fate. You are as persistent, as unrelenting as fate itself. But you'll learn that the fabric of fate can be unravelled, and it will be a lesson you shall learn most painfully. Behold, the claws of Anubis. Can even your strongest magic overcome them?" And we see that he is jested with the medallion. Great shot of Dr. Fate flying down through a blue, pink and white sky, as there's no other way to sort of describe this, sort of like extending black bars with orange detail on them stretch out towards Dr. Fate. Maybe the captioning that rounds out page 16 will help me.
The air is shattered by a sound like the clacking of razor-sharp castanets, as thousands of the talons bite into the man named Fate, straining he sustains a magical aura to protect his body.
Yes, the captioning doing a lot of heavy lifting here because the artwork is almost very difficult to interpret. It looks like Dr. Fate has been surrounded by long, twisting, stretching black bandages which have points at the end, quite frankly. That's kind of what we see. The caption at the top of page 17 continues,
Until finally, with a surge of mystic energy, he frees himself, and the lethal claws scatter like so many windswept leaves.
Yep, see what you see captioning. Dr. Fate gestures and we see the little black, sharp, pointy things breaking up all around him. Next panel is a nice close-up shot of Dr. Fate holding the fragment of the sarcophagus as he says,
No man can change what is destined, and what is destined, Callus, is your defeat.
Callus notices what he's holding. The seal! He has the sarcophagus's seal! He mustn't speak the words! He can't!
But, as a spell unspoken for countless centuries thunders through the hills, Callus knows Fate can.
A great panel, unlike anything I've ever seen, quite frankly, of Dr. Fate gesturing in weird sort of interlocking stylograph-style patterns all around him, as he says,
Hefnaketi, Tefnaketi, Amon-Ra, Menata.
Captioning resumes,
Deserted by Anubis, Callus recoils beneath the invocation of his magical name in a death spell, defenceless against the brightly glowing Dr. Fate and his sudden ally, Amon-Ra, the sun god.
We've got to try and find room for this on the socials. This is incredible. Really spoilt for choice. We see Dr. Fate with his helmet overlaid over his body and an Egyptian eye floating above him. They seem to be overlaid over the sun as the radiating waves of energy burst out all around. And we see Callus, poor Callus, I feel like saying, being struck with these bolts of energy. His bandages tearing with the amulet hovering in the air above him as Dr. Fate says,
Amon-Ra, make me one with you to destroy your enemy.
Obviously seems to work. As I say, in the final panel of page 17, we see Callus being struck. In the first panel of page 18, Dr. Fate is kneeling in front of a big pile of dust as he thinks to himself,
The sun god fills my very being. I am Amon-Ra incarnate. Callus is helpless against the light. He's crumbling to nothingness.
On panel 2 of page 18, we see Dr. Fate reaching into the dust and picking up his prize as he thinks,
The amulet of Anubis is mine again. The world will be safe from its terrible power. For now I know Only in my hands can this power be used for good. This was the test Naboo had planned for me, and I'm sure he knows, wherever he is, that I passed it.
And Dr. Fate seems to obviously be recovering here. There's a little, looks like steam and smoke coming off his helmet. The last of the Amon-Ra energy leaving him. We can see Inza's car drawing up nearby with a screech of brakes. It comes to a halt. She yells, "Kent!" as she sees Dr. Fate sprawled on the ground. "Oh, Lord, please, let him still be alive. Let him still be alive." She crosses, helps Dr. Fate to his feet, as Dr. Fate says,
Honey, I did it. We did it. That thing you found helped Fate defeat the mummy.
Inza asks, "We?" And Dr. Fate removes his helmet, with Kent Nelson showing underneath, who replies,
Yeah, we. You and me.
"And Dr. Fate." Final panel, see them back in Inza's car, driving off, presumably back to the tower, as Inza continues, "And you know something, husband of mine? I think maybe I can learn to live with him after all." And the nice little Egyptian fishy-shaped sign then reads, "Finis." And another caption reads,
Next first issue special on sale the 4th week in October.
Well then, where do we start?
That was joyous. This is the introduction of the Ankh symbology, which is going to be a staple of Dr. Fate from here on in.
Yep.
Before, we've had lots of lightning bolts cast, lots of other bits and pieces. Mostly his magic was portrayed as lightning bolts.
Yep.
But from here on in, it's Ankhs. Ankhs all the way.
Ankh City, Arizona. Ankh City, New Jersey.
Ankhs very much Walt Simonson for that.
Yep. Walt Simonson, though, like, I've always found him a bit of an acquired taste. I remember, like, reading some of the stuff that he did, obviously, on Thor for Marvel in the 80s, and really being struck by how well that suited it. And, you know, I thought he suited the Manhunter stuff really well, but I've always thought I didn't really think his approach suited the Fantastic Four or the Metal Men too well, in my humble opinion. Don't panic, don't get upset.
Okay.
But it absolutely suited this down to the ground.
I loved his FF run. I thought it's one of the strongest ones of all the greats. Perhaps third after Stan and Jack and John Byrne, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I mean, that purely just comes from me sort of thinking that the stylish essence of Walt Simonson doesn't really suit traditional superheroes. That's all. I mean, I've not read an awful lot of his FF stuff. I had a couple of issues back in the day.
Sure.
So, I mean, maybe the stories are quite good and quite enjoyable and all works, but to me, I think the FF suit more traditional John Buscema type stuff rather than the more intricate and detailed sort of like stylized Simonson stuff. And
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, as I say, we're going to be spoiled for choice for panels for this to put on the socials. For actually quite a straightforward story, but I think as a pilot, as a first issue special tryout, it was a really, really good showcase for Dr. Fate.
Yeah, we've got to discuss the time frame of this, because it's really kind of weird. Because it is like a pilot, but is it a pilot for an Earth 1 version of Dr. Fate? Because it does say in the flashback
15 years.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was, 12? So this Dr. Fate's 27.
Yeah.
And it's not as if it's a period piece, because Inza's using like current hip language, as it were.
Yeah, Katie Manning to play Inza Nelson, I think.
Oh gosh, yes, definitely. That would work perfectly at that time period. Yeah.
No, I agree with you very strongly. I was thinking that myself as we read it. I don't know if it's necessarily an Earth 1 version of him, but certainly a version of him unbound by the regular continuity, like we kind of basically decided it was with the Spectre last year.
Yeah, sure.
There's not a single reference to the Justice Society. There's nothing that establishes that this is set on Earth 2 or anything like that. There is no mention of any aspects of the history of the character at all. And it's, as you say, I mean, pointing out there, the 15 years thing, that basically does sort of suggest that Kent at this point is still 27. So if he's 27 in 1975, that means he was born in what? 1948?
Yep.
So that's long after the original Dr. Fate appeared.
Yeah, that is quite peculiar. I mean, we could add a few decades onto that, and just to tidy that up. If they'd say 35 years ago, maybe, but...
Yeah, I think we have to think of it as this ain't your Mon Pause Dr. Fate. This is not the guy we've seen teaming up with Our Man or popping up occasionally with the JLA and Jesse. This is definitely a relaunch.
It's also interesting that he's not actually really possessed by Naboo with the helmet, which was a later thing.
Sure.
Basically put on the helmet and you become Naboo. there is an influence, obviously, and again gives him more abilities, but he's still, maybe he's half Naboo, because he kept saying half a man.
Yeah.
And maybe that's kind of an aspect of it, the fact that he's kind of lost part of his humanity, and when he puts on the helmet, he gains half of Naboo.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. He puts on the helmet, and that gives him access to Naboo's power and sort of stuff. I mean, one thing we must say, actually, is that the origin flashback is very faithful to what we see in More Fun Comics number 66, reprinted in the Dr. Fate archive. If you're lucky enough to own it, listeners, I have one here. I will thump myself on the head with it just to demonstrate its semiotic thickness. The panels are very complimentary. There's a bit more dialogue in the Golden Age version, but it's a very accurate, recreation. And we'll have to bear that in mind, because before we reach the end of our mission, Dr. Fate's origin will be retold twice. It'll be told in an issue of, I think, DC Superstars or a DC special, and then again in All-Star Squadron. So we'll have to watch out and see how they all
tally up.
Interesting. Yes. It's a very good way of, that's exactly the words I was looking for. It's very interesting. I mean, obviously the cover's a bit Defenders 39, isn't it, listeners? Isn't it, Alec?
Yes, Alec, yes.
The Sphinx flying down over this. I mean, maybe it's meant to be a square in Boston. I don't know. What really struck me this is there's so much brilliant casual throwaway imagery, like the Sphinx and the pyramid appearing among Boston, and just the brilliant sort of graphic depictions of Dr. Fate using his magic and Callus using his magic.
Yeah.
We didn't mention the very nice tiled bathroom in Inzern Kent's abode, which seems to have a fitted kitchen and stuff within the tower as well. I mean, that looks like a lavatory in panel 2 of page 6. Is that the first lavatory we've seen in the podcast? I'm not sure.
My goodness. Maybe it'll be. I'm
so impressed with this. I've no idea how old Walt Simonson was at this point, but it's like there's just brilliantly structured panels just casually strewn all over the place. I think this is even better than the Manhunter stuff.
Well, it is contained to one story, one issue, whereas Manhunter was a series of backups, and then obviously there's been a fantastic collection. Incidentally, I have the Manhunter Walt Simonson Artist Edition, which includes pages from this story.
All right, good.
So the original pages, or some of the original pages from this, will be going up on our socials, listeners.
Excellent.
So watch out for them.
Good.
They'll be coming. I was almost tempted to read from that during the record, but it was a bit unwieldy, and plus you don't get the colours. So
I'm reading from my copy of First Issue Special, which by the look of the bag and board, I bought it from City Centre Comics when they were based in the back of Forbidden Planet on Buchanan Street. So that means it was at some point between 1995 and 2002. It cost me £2.50. And do you know what? I think that was the first time I'd actually read it properly, was when we were doing it.
Wow.
I don't think I'd ever got round to reading it before. Again, because of that slight feeling I had that Walt Simonson wasn't really suited to superheroes.
Sure.
But again, this isn't really a superhero-esque sort of story. I mean, obviously there's the angst of the relationship and there's the secret identity stuff, but, it's not a traditional sort of superhero thing.
Yeah.
I think if someone like, with no disrespect, if someone like Dick Dillon or Irv Novick had drawn this, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as effective as I think Walt's sort of stylings were absolutely spot on and necessary for it.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's really weird that they chose Joe Kubert to do the cover for it.
Yeah.
Kubert's a great artist in his own right, but this is such a change in look and style for Fate. And if they are doing it as a pilot, then why wouldn't you have the interior artist who's bringing this fantastic new look? Why would you not have him do the cover? It's really peculiar. I wonder if there's maybe time constraints, or I don't know, or maybe Kubert was just contracted for so many covers and they had to get him to do this one. Who knows? But yeah, it's a really strange choice, because the cover's good, but it's nothing like the insides. The interiors are far superior.
It really isn't. And a Sphinx does appear in an urban situation, but and it is sort of seen knocking over a building. So you always sort of wonder, was Mr. Kubert given a couple of pages from the script and a loose description?
Yeah. Quite possibly.
I was really blown away by that. I really, really enjoyed it. I would have quite happily read another 6 or 7 issues of this before the implosion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. I thought it would have been quite funny if, when Callus had summoned Anubis back, if Anubis had turned up and said, "Well, Callus, what are you doing? I'm retired. I was having a nice nap and you bring me back for this? Yeah. No, go away."
What time do you call this? That sort of thing.
Yeah. It was weird as well that the flashback scene was set in 2025 BC.
Oh.
This year BC.
Oh.
And then we had a 2030 BC.
I didn't pick up on that. That's interesting. Oh, gosh. I hope that doesn't mean that by talking about it now we're going to unleash some kind of horrible Anubis-style revenge on the world. Can you imagine, listeners, if anything like that's happening near you, email us at theearth2podcast@gmail.com and we'll read your frightened messages out in a future instalment.
I think Russell T Davies was already influenced by it when he brought Sutik back last year.
God.
Doctor Who.
Yes, that's a point. Oh, dearie me.
That's all the influence we need. There we are.
Yes. Check out, listeners, the latest editions of the Power 3 podcast for a bit of chat about Doctor Who. And obviously our friend Ross is doing weekly reaction episodes to the current series of Doctor Who on Gallifrey's Most Wanted. So make sure you check those out too.
Both worth checking out, absolutely.
So I think we're decided then that we both enjoyed this one very much and we would have quite happily have seen it go into an ongoing.
Absolutely, 100%. It's just such a shame that it didn't. I mean, the only thing that really did was Warlords. Let's be honest, the only thing that was successful that came out of it.
Yeah.
Weird.
And obviously, listeners, will be doing another issue of First Issue Special. We'll feature a character with the same name as a member of the Justice Society very soon indeed, which means we'll have another Road to episode before that to get through as well.
Yay.
Oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
See what I've dug up for that one.
Before we wind up, listeners, we're going to break the rules slightly and have a very quick chat about the latest issue of JSA, which was, as we record, went on sale in our shop today. I have to be honest, I'm kind of middling on this series as it goes. I've not really been entirely satisfied by it. I know that Jeff Lemire's very good at writing sort of almost homage pastiche type stuff in Black Hammer. To me, I felt that we've been reading a sort of parody of early 80s Avengers stories, but the latest thing obviously to happen is that something bad has happened to Wildcat. Pete and I were sort of discussing the last page of this latest issue. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't read it yet. As we see the presumably deceased Wildcat standing alongside the Atom and Dr. Fate and Dr. Midnight and Wesley Dodds the Sandman in the attire that he wore in the recent miniseries, so maybe that means we're going to get some more of that. And also Our Man.
Yes.
And I was sort of struck because I sort of thought, wait a minute, these guys are all dead, but Our Man got rescued from 0 Hour in the pages of JSA like approximately 20 years ago. And then, as Pete pointed out, he popped up in a couple of issues of JSA All-Stars after that, and there's not really been anything since to show that he's died. So we wonder if Jeff has maybe not read those issues of JSA, or if maybe Rex died off camera.
Well, it was the Tyler android that swapped places with Rex.
That's right.
In order to save him. And of course, the Tyler android, a version of Our Man, I should say, came back in the Stargirl miniseries. So maybe there's been a swap back of some kind.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing about it. I wonder if that will be addressed, but we just wanted to mention that as the grumpy little pedants that we are.
It's also telling that in that final page, this is spoilers as well. Sorry, we should have said spoilers for this issue. We're not used to saying spoilers because we talk about things from 50 years ago.
Yeah, well, this episode's going to be out a week after we record it, and the comic will have been on sale for a week before then.
Fair enough. But I think it's quite telling that the two characters who don't actually speak in that final page are Dr. Fate and Our Man. Everyone else gets a line of dialogue.
That's true.
So perhaps it's not really Our Man.
Don't know.
This is all seen by the new version of the character of Kid Eternity, who's basically seen them. And obviously, Kid Eternity's power set is he can summon the ghosts of dead people and or characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does imply that they are all dead, including Wildcat.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
We'll see. I mean, there's been so many crises and reboots and all that in the last 20 years since those pages in JSA. And of course, Rick Tyler himself is still around. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We just wanted to kind of stick a pin in that, listeners, and mark it out and see. We noticed this, and we shall see what happens if anything indeed does happen.
Yes. Listeners, what are your thoughts on this development? What are your thoughts on Walt Simonson's Dr. Fate? You can email us and let us know. Our email address is theearth2podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on social media because we're putting up lots of lovely bonus material for this episode and indeed all our episodes. As I said, we've got some of the original art pages from the Artist Edition that will be winging its way to your handheld phones so you can see them. You can look at them on a bigger screen if you like.
Yes. We'll put a few select pages. We're not going to rip the Mickey or anything like that and post the entire thing. We'll take a few choice pages and stick them on the Instagram, and hopefully they won't clash too much with the panels we select to emphasise the story on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes. And if you want to check that out, Facebook and Instagram, we're at the Earth2 Podcast, and at Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2. And it is, of course, the number 2 for all of our socials.
Listeners, thank you for joining us as always. If you're enjoying what we do, please consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcast and leaving us a generous review. That would be lovely. If you're feeling even more generous, you can go to our coffee page and buy Peter the price of a beverage, as he's shifted to Costa now, I believe.
No, that was a one-off.
That was a one-off. Right. Well, that was a bank holiday special. No, that was a free comic book day special. Listeners, how was your free comic day experience? Write in and let us know on that bombshell.
I've been Peter.
And I've been David. We'll see you again soon on The Earth 2 podcast.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.